Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Comer.
With Cooney.
With Cooney.
And Grace Ericson is joining us again today, and we're going to be talking about multi-author series. Series is it series? Series is plural for series, like moose, right? And deer. Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay. Well, I'm probably going to end up saying series is a couple times because I'm dumb, apparently. That's okay. So thank you, Tara, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Always fun to come and chat with you guys.
So multi-author series, which are not to be confused with multi-author box sets. We did an episode on multi-author box sets, so that's not what we're talking about. But I think it's a good place to start. What are the differences between a multi-author series and a multi-author box set as far as you're concerned? Tara, you want to jump in first?
Yeah, for sure. I think that the big distinguishing factor is that in a multi-author series, the books are standalone books linked in some way. Mm-hmm. But typically, if you were to go look up them on your local or in your favorite online bookstore, they would each appear as a separate book in most cases. Whereas a multi-author box set, they would all come bundled as a set, and they may or may not be related by character, theme, anything at all, really. They're just a bunch of books that authors decide to bundle up and sell as a package.
Okay. Cool.
My opinion.
Valerie, you have anything to add, subtract?
That is generally very, very true. I have seen a few multi-author box sets where there's a bit more of, I hate to say an effort, because it's just a different thing where there is more overlap. But generally, when you have a multi-author box set and everybody disbands at the end, those stories don't need each other. The author can just absorb them into their own catalog, and nobody will go, oh, but what about, the other characters from the box set? Whereas the series, I think, tend to have more stronger elements that hold them together, which is weird because a box set is together, and you'd think it needed that, but apparently not.
Narelle?
Well, there's always exceptions to every rule, isn't there? So there will be series that will get boxed and are connected. But my first experience of reading multi-author series would be Harlequin. And probably, I think, particularly the love-inspired books. So what I think of is a shared setting or there's something that joins those books together, whether it's a canine series or whatever. Oh. And that they're branded in a way that that they all belong together. And I used to always like the rapid release, where they'd be like every month there'd be a new one that would come out. So I often think of multi-author series as having, you don't have a 6-month gap usually between books. You don't get you don't take 6 years to release 6 books, if that makes sense. They will all come out at a reasonable pace and will keep you interested and really develop that setting as a character often as well. And that's probably what I look for, is something about it that connects it. And if it's a setting, it's really going back to that, getting that feeling of I really want to go back to that setting and meet with those characters and be in that place and get that feeling that I remembered that I enjoyed last time.
Okay, fair. Although I will say, I guess I struggle a little with the love-inspired one, because I just read Tony Shiloh's most recent love-inspired, which is An Unlikely Alliance. I think it's an A word. I think it's alliance. It's not alliance. I don't know. It's in the canine.
I'm not sure.
it's in one of it's Deb Kastner kicked off the canine.
Yeah.
Something serious. I'm clearly prepared to have this conversation because I remember it so well. But anyway, I was talking. Tony asked me, would you like a copy of it? One of my author copies. I'm like, yes. I'm like, but I haven't read any of the others. Do I need to? She's like, no, they're only related because they all have service dogs. And I'm like, oh, they're not even they just all have service dogs. They're not they're not in the same place. You don't see the other people. There's like no relationship other than their books about service dogs. So is that a multi-author series? Love Inspired says so, but Beth says no. So
Valerie says no.
okay, phew.
And I say maybe.
Okay.
I say maybe. One of the ones I brought with me is similar in that vein. So.
All right. So we can talk about that as we get closer. All right. So with multi-author series, what do you love? What do you love about the multi-author series, Tara?
I can't add anything to what Narelle said. I love the more interlinked the stories are, the more excited I get about visiting that place, seeing those side characters with the goofy traits, or eating at that diner, or whatever happens in across multiple authors' stories. That's my favorite thing about the shared universe among multi-author series.
And yet those Love Inspired books qualify as a multi-author series for you. I'm just,
just saying what I like about them doesn't mean they wouldn't be my first choice. That doesn't mean they're not the thing.
All right, that's fair. I'm with you. It's the cafe or the diner or the bakery or the whatever place that the characters hang out, and it's the usually quirky person who owns it and serves them or whatever. Just the fact that you kind of know what business is next door to what business, and that they all know each other and hang out and show up in the other books. So it's the setting.
You too, Narelle? Anything more?
Yeah, it's the setting or the characters. Because I was thinking, this is why I'm a maybe on the service dogs. It's kind of like, would you say that a trope makes a multi-author series? So if you had a whole bunch of authors writing about wedding planners at completely different venues, for example, would that be a legitimate multi-author series?
No, it'd be a great multi-author box set, but it's not a multi-author series.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's like there's so many exceptions.
What if they sell them not in a box? What if they sell them alone?
Yeah, and split them up. It's all very interesting. Yeah, but it's definitely the setting. And I'll be honest, I'll be disappointed if I'm reading a very strong, what I call strongly branded series. So they all look like they belong together if you look at the covers and the book descriptions, and they use the same setting, but you just don't get those cross connections, or there's sort of no anchor characters that are shared among the books. I do find that sometimes slightly disappointing. I like to sort of have that interconnectedness, but I know that that's not always possible depending on the way the series is set up as well. But I do like it when the authors write multiple books in a series and their own books are very connected. Yeah. So I really like that.
Series within a series.
Yes.
So I'm this. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Nope.
Sorry. I was going to add one more thing, which is the other thing I love about multi-author series is that you get all of the things you love about a single author series, but you get more books faster because they're not all coming from the same author. So that rapid release concept that Narelle mentioned, I think is a big benefit to the multi-author.
It kind of amplifies the impact, doesn't it? Keeps you there.
Yeah.
No escape. Yeah. I don't have anything extra to add. It's the series elements that you would get in a single author series for sure, but just they're multi-author. So do you feel obligated to read all the books in a multi-author series, or can you pick and choose and only read the ones that you're interested in, or the authors who maybe you prefer over some of the authors who are writing in the series? Can you do that? Or because it's a multi-author series and it's a series, do you have to read them all? Tara?
I think that depends on the series and my experience up to that point with that series or that author. So if I have read an author's books and I was like, you maybe didn't finish them, or what just wasn't my favorite, then I could see myself skipping their books in a multi-author series, unless it was like they were writing a character that I would just had to know that character's story or something and had been introduced to them previously. Or if I've been reading the series and it's, round 2 of each author putting out their books and I didn't particularly care for this maybe author I wasn't familiar with, I might skip their next book and go on to an author I knew I had enjoyed.
Valerie?
I am far more likely to read all the stories in a multi-author box set than in a multi-author series. I guess it's because it's on my Kindle and I've already paid for it. And I don't have to make a separate decision for each one. It's a separate decision thing where I'm like, but look at all the stuff on my Kindle. And I'll just say right here too, that if you've got like a 26 book, a multi-author box set and think that I'm going to snap it up because it's 99 cents, I'm like, no, I don't even almost even care who's in it. It's just like too much for me. So it's not just, I'm not looking for the deal, is what I'm trying to say. The best deal, 12 cents per book or whatever. But it's, I evaluate each one then and decide whether or not I want to buy it and read it. And so it's a whole lot more decision making, which is fine. I can make those decisions, but they're not all going to be one clicks.
No.
They're just not.
Narelle?
Well, I'm more likely to read more of the books if a minor character, say I start at the beginning, which I don't always do with multi-author series. I do jump around. And if I start at the beginning and I read about a particular minor character who's interesting, and then I see that they're in a book down the track, that will then lock that book in for me as one that I want to read. So I will jump around a bit in the series. And I do like the individual books because then I actually know what I've read. With the boxes, you can't track your reading, if that makes sense. And your percentages are all off, and I like to know where I'm up to. And I've got to remember to go from...
in order. If you just start at the beginning.
No, that's too hard.
Heresy.
No. Oh, that's way too hard because I never do that, because it's like looking in a bag of M&Ms and the chocolate one, the brown one's on top, so you have to eat that. It's like, no, I'll go looking for the green one. I'm just not, I just don't necessarily follow the rules on that. So I've got to sit there and remember percentages, and I find that challenging to have to do maths while I'm reading. But anyway, I do, if I've got a favorite author that is
I love you, Narelle. You do not think like me, but I love you.
I love you too. The world would be boring if everyone was like me. Very, very boring. But anyway. So if I have a favorite author who's in a multi-author series and I just adore their books, I will auto buy. And if I find out all the books are very heavily connected, I'll be very tempted to auto buy the whole series. But that doesn't mean I actually necessarily read them all in order. And it's because I'm auto buying something either.
It's Narelle.
Because, so I've got like thousands of unread books. So what's a few 10 extra to add to mine?
Narelle does what she wants.
The idea of reading series out of order makes me cringe.
Right? Yes. No,
no, it's just, I don't know. I'm quite happy to do it. And sometimes I just feel like reading about these characters. I don't feel like reading about those characters, and my feelings are just random sometimes. So it's just, So I will go in weird places with what books that I know are not connected with a mystery or something you have to unpack. If I know it's that all the stories relate to each other and something's unfolding, I'll be a very good girl and I'll read them in order.
Okay.
So this is the key, authors,
Yeah.
to capturing readers like Narelle, is that thread of mystery going through a series. Okay, I've got it. Got it in my head now.
Yeah.
A thread of something. Yeah, because I do like the reason you read in order is to get those little nuggets. So you miss the nuggets of goodies if you don't read in order. And I know that. But then sometimes there's that other part of me that thinks, oh, it doesn't matter.
Such a rebel.
But anyway.
Yeah. So it's funny because like with box sets, I start at page 1 and I read to page 1,000,002 just from start to finish. Even if like at page 573, I'm like, oh my word, are we not done yet? Because sometimes they get so long and I'm just dying inside. But you started it, so you have to finish it.
No,
see there, I'll skip to the next one if it's really one I don't want to read.
But with multi-author series, I will actually pick and choose. I won't read them out of order, but like if I'll read book 1. And then if I see what book 2 is, I might wait and skip to book 3 and just not read book 2. Because usually you can like figure out if there was something important that you missed, you can figure it out. So I will skip authors who I've maybe had a bad reading experience with. If I see that they're there, I'm like, Now, I will say, since subscribing to Kindle Unlimited, I will try it more often now if they're in KU, because it doesn't cost me anything. But if I have to shell out for it, I'm like, no, I'm good. Pass, unless I get a couple recommendations and I can ask some questions, like to see whether they did the things that disappointed me the last time. But if I read two of them and I see that they're really tightly interconnected, then I probably would go back, even if I didn't, because I want that interconnection is the big deal for me with multi-author series. If they're not tightly coupled, to use an engineering term, then then I'm not as committed. So yeah. All right. So I think the time has come to discuss our favorite multi-author series is. Series is. Tara, you go first. Tell us your first favorite multi-author series.
Okay, so this is actually the very first multi-author series I ever read as a reader before I became an author. So it's an oldie, but a goodie in my opinion. And I would say that some of the books tend towards clean with maybe light inspi. So just for context, it's called River's End Ranch. So I don't know if you guys remember this series, but I think right now it has 66 books in it.
Oh my word.
Wow.
Wow.
So it spanned several years, and I think a book came out every 2 weeks for 2 years probably. And I was reading it as they were releasing. 6 authors, I think.
Wow, they were busy.
They were very busy.
They were.
They're novella length. They're like 30,000, but they all take place on a tourism ranch in, I can't remember even what state anymore. Idaho, maybe?
Ranch land.
But it was kind of set up as an old West town tourism. So like there was a old candy shop and a ice cream saloon. It was very, very cute, very interconnected, lots of character crossovers, lots of inside jokes throughout the series that made it really fun to read. And they also spun off a second series called Quinn Valley Ranch. So some of the authors, Liz Isaacson, Pamela Kelly, Kristen Osborne. Oh goodness, that might be the only ones I can name off the top of my head. But if you're looking for 100 books to read in the same universe,
oh my word,
River's End Ranch and Quinn Valley Ranch are the two multi-author series that really introduced me to it as a concept.
Is it Quinn, Quinn, Quinn Valley? Okay, not twin.
Well, how many of them have you read?
I think I read probably 60 of the River's End Ranch. Wow. And probably 20 or so of Quinn.
Well, you get all the gold stars, hon.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I read all of those. There was a Facebook group. They would do trivia nights and do cover reveals and all the things. And the trademark on the covers, they all had a pair of boots on the cover. So it was landscape with some boots, and they were cute.
Cool. That's very cool. All right, Valerie, what's your first one?
Well, I guess I have to give a nod to Arcadia Valley Romances, which Elizabeth and I both wrote for. There was 6 authors, and for a year and a half or so, I guess we published a book a month. So this is a few years ago now, 2017, 18, I think. Yeah. So we each did an introductory novella that we bundled, and then so we had the multi-author box set as well as the multi-author series. So they were all set in the same town and had some overlapping characters and so forth. And then the thing that I thought was particularly cool was that we each came away with a novella and 3 novels at the end of it that formed like a little series for each author. So
I thought that
really enjoyed those. I enjoyed the foodie elements of it. I liked the characters. It was fun.
I really enjoyed how there were kind of mini series within that big series where, you know, the bakery, Baxter Bakery, and the different kind of sub series, because I didn't read the series in order, but I have read several of the mini series within Arcadia Valley since then. It's good.
Yeah.
No, it was a fun concept that way for sure.
It was not, I think, as tightly coupled as either Valerie and I hoped it would be. Fair warning, because our series do stand alone. Like, you can read my Baxter Family Bakery or Valerie's Garden Grown Romance and not read any of the others, and you'll be fine. By and large, the two of ours are slightly closer knit, because as we got to the end, we were like, okay, I want to borrow.
Because we worked on it.
Yeah, we worked on it. We worked hard. I borrowed Kenya from Valerie so that Jonah could break her heart and set her up for a harder time in her book. Poor Kenya. But yeah, I like walking away with a series as well when it was all said and done.
Yeah.
Yep. Narelle.
Well, of course, you just stole my top of the list, and for the reasons you mentioned. And so that's one of the reasons Arcadia Valley was at the top of my list, was because it was like the little series within a series. Because I'm a rereader, the thought of rereading 50 books or whatever is just, you just can't do that if you're a rereader. But because they're the way that they were, the series sort of went across like this, but you had all these little series sort of going down from 1, 2, 3. I can pick Valerie's books, or I can pick Elizabeth's books or Lee's books or whatever, and just read through their little part of it and go back to Arcadia Valley and have fun rereading. So cool. I really love that concept of how they all sit together. But anyway, so I will jump to another series. Well, I'll talk about A Tuscan Legacy, because this is a series I did read in order. This is a series that you can't really read out of order, because there's a mystery reveal that relates to the grandmother. So I won't talk too much about the Rossi family, but this was connected with grandchildren. Elizabeth and I both wrote a book in that series as well, and it was international. So having a series that's not just locked into one location, but where you traveled, I think you went to Europe, Wales, England, the US. It was based in Italy and also Australia. So that was really good for me, who likes her international stories, to be able to go traveling around the world with these characters. So that was super fun. So that was the first one I would talk about, which I will reread in order. I won't reread it out of order. Which will keep everybody happy.
How many books are in that series?
10? 7 or 8?
10.
There's 10. Yeah.
It got away on me, I guess.
No, well, there was originally 9, and then readers wanted to have Nonna in her 80s have her own romance. So the readers won, and Autumn MacArthur wrote book 10. Yeah. And it was actually all released individually. It was weekly rapid release for most of the books. So all the avid readers that devour a novella in a week were just in heaven with that series. Tick the box there. And then it was about a year after it released, I think we boxed it for about 9 months or so, and maybe 12 months.
That one, the box was when Autumn released book 10. So it was sort of a newbie to the box. For when the box, and now it's out individually as well. But for a while it was exclusive to the box.
Yeah. And in the first book, because the first book is actually a novel length. It wasn't meant to be a novel length, but Marion, there was just too much series set up that needed to happen. And then to add a romance into that, there was no way she could get that under 40,000. I think the first one comes in at 50 or roundabouts.
It's not massively longer, but it is definitely longer. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So my first one, I'm gonna just go ahead and mention Freedom Ridge since we've got Tara with us. Freedom Ridge, I have talked about incessantly anytime I can, pretty much, on the podcast. It is going into season 3, starting in late September, early October.
October.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun. I like the multi-author series that come back around for I like the seasons, the way that you've done it. It's not a year-round thing. They're all Christmas in Freedom, Colorado. And I just love that each of the books stand alone really pretty well. So you can pick and choose if you want to, but they all do have the town of Freedom is really a well-developed character. And so you do see the recurring places and people within the town. And season 2 took sort of a romantic suspense twist in a lot of the books, which was kind of fun. And so I'm excited to see what season 3 holds coming up this fall. I don't tend to read a ton of Christmas books. We've talked about that before, but these are ones that I always make room for because they are really well intertwined and still stand alone, and they all deliver a really nice, solid story, which I like, with a good, solid faith element to them too, which I appreciate.
I've read a few of those, not the whole series by any stretch, not the whole series is. But I don't know if you've heard of that Tara Grace Ericson. I think that's her. Yeah, I've read hers. They were pretty good.
Well, my last book I read Believing the Hero by Tara Grace Ericson because I was so excited that it's a finalist in the ACFW Carol Award in the novella category. So, and that's like, oh, I need to go read that book now. It's there. It just wasn't at the top of it's probably in my top 100, maybe out of my 1,000.
I'll take it.
My book,
Sarah.
And I really enjoyed that. Yeah. And that's the Secret Agent one. But it's romantic suspensey, but it's still, I don't know, it's still CCR with romantic suspense elements, not necessarily the whole story being romantic suspense.
They're not full up suspense. Yeah. They got a little suspensey, which was fun. I mean,
and this one is mature age characters as well, which I think is always fun too. So go read Believing the Hero if you're happy like me to jump out of order. And you can always book 9, so you can read the other 8 first. Yeah, or you can just jump to book 9. And I think because I had read your series 1.
That's right.
Yeah, and because I'd read the series 1 book, I was fine because I knew who the characters were, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I would say if you're going to read Believing the Hero, read the one before it, which the title is gone completely out of my head because I did not write it down. Which one was the one you wrote in the first?
My first one was Forgiven by the Hero.
Forgiven by the Hero.
That's it.
We're going to run out of titles before we run out of ideas for books, I think.
Very cool.
So read Forgiven by read that one first. I would read these 2 in order because I think you'll enjoy the second one if you've read the first one.
Yes.
Yep.
Well,
or enjoy the second one more, I should say.
Thank you for those kind words. It was, it's been a very series to dream up and get moving, and it's a lot of work to intertwine that many books and work with that many authors, but I do think that the end result is worth it for us and for the readers.
Yeah. All right, what's your next one, Tara? We can each do one more.
Well, Arcadia Valley was on my list, so I'll have to skip that one, and we'll talk about the controversial one, which would be Books Joined by a Trope, the Blushing Bride series, which has Lorena Hoops, Evangeline Kelly, Mandy Blake has one in that series, and they're all branded very nicely. And but the only real connection between the books is that they have a bride in them and a beautiful woman in a wedding dress on the cover. But I have really enjoyed several of the books in that series, and they are more like standalones, but they're marketed as a series.
I've read Mandy's. I haven't, and I mean, I read Mandy's, and it stands alone, and it's fabulous. And I have not read any of the others because I didn't feel like I needed to. So yeah. They're on my list to get to at some point because the covers are lovely. But yeah, there's another one. There's a Lawfully something that's like that, where it's just all Western. And they're lawfully something, but I don't know what even ties them together there.
Well, and that one's interesting because I think there's both historical and contemporary books within that series.
Okay. Interesting.
Interesting.
All All right, Valerie, what you got? You got another one?
Sure. Let's go with another kind of oldie. Treasure Harbor was, I think, it came out in a similar time frame to the Tuscan Legacy. You haven't seen that one, Tara?
I have
It
not
was,
seen that one.
It's a good one.
7-book series. Belle Calhoun was in it. Leah Atwood was in it. Kristen Etheridge, I think, a few others. I didn't write down every author. And it's, I think, set up a little similarly to the Tuscan Legacy one in that there's 1 book per author, although I think Belle does 2, that follow a specific thread through the story, and then it's done. So there is a hunt to find the treasure of a 17th century pirate in South Carolina. So each novella is one couple story, but there's both the shared setting and then the treasure that tie them together. This is one where I did not read all the stories until they boxed them up in one multi-author box set. And I was like, oh, I guess I can read them now. Because before that, I'd read a couple of the ones that of the authors that appealed to me more than the others. Sorry about that, people, but it's true, right? I mean, the TBR is never ending. So, and I did enjoy seeing the clues play out over time, but I had kind of figured out what had happened in the ones that I'd missed as well. So I didn't feel like I'd missed too much, but on the other hand, it was nice putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Narelle?
Well, I'll just do a quick mention of Chapel Cove, and that's set on the Oregon coast. And I love this series because I've been to the Oregon coast. I'm also writing a book in this series, which I've had writer's block on, but that's, I think, related to other things. Losing Marion, I think, really, made it harder to write in this story world, but I will get over that. I'm working on other projects and I'll get my writing muscles up so I can get back into that book from a positive place. If anyone's had writer's block, though, only the listeners or authors, you'll know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you can get that on projects. But anyway, I do love the Chapel Cove setting. And the first 3 books, which were written by Marion Newcomen, Autumn MacArthur, and Alexa Verde, were 3 friends who go back and meet in Chapel Cove for their 40th birthday. So it's sort of a 40s and over is where the series started. But it's just such a fun setting. And I think Seaside in Oregon is just gorgeous. And for me, it's that setting and that small town vibe and the whole, I mean, I don't live in a small town, so I love going to those places as a reader as well. And I think small towns really are bread and butter for contemporary Christian romance as well, and are very popular. So Chapel Cove, and
tuck it on the ocean and you're winning.
Yeah, and I've read this in order. You'll be so proud of me. I had to mention a series I've read in order. Yeah, so I've read this one in order, and I love these books, and I will reread as well in this particular series. I have read
several of them, not in order. Again, picking and choosing as authors and tropes and whatever sound appealing at the moment.
Yeah, I think the psychology of whether we read or don't read in order is really interesting. I think maybe it relates to how invested we are with the actual, whatever the series connector is as well. The more invested I am in the series, the more likely I am to read in order and to not jump around.
And you're invested because you're going to write one of the books.
I am writing one of the books.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, I'm planning 3. I need to get this written.
All right, so my last one, because we're getting over a little bit, but that's okay, is the Resort to Romance series. It's again an older one.
Right.
And this was 10 novellas, 10 different authors around a matchmaking service on an island in the Bahamas. So, and it's all blind dates, like you paid to go to this island and they decided who you would match with. And so, so it's kind of fun to see each person arriving and at the first, like, I love when, especially with this type of series, there's an event that all of the people in the books go to. So in this case, they all go to the first mixer. And so you get that first mixer scene from all the different perspectives in the different books as they're meeting their individual. And so like if a tray got knocked over and a glass shattered, you know, that's mentioned in like 5 or 6 of the books because they were all there at the same time kind of thing, even though there was just the one where the girl tripped and ran into the waiter or whatever. And so I enjoyed this a lot. They also have the matchmaking. I feel like they were grannies, like 2 grannies who were doing the matchmaking.
That sounds right.
And so, you know, they're consistent again through all the things. And then the date options at the resort are all, so again, you know, you see several couples are on the cooking date and several go to swim with the pigs in the ocean. I remember that because like who swims with pigs, but apparently that's a thing in the Bahamas. So I don't know.
Apparently it is. Yeah.
Apparently it is. Like, I don't want to swim with a pig, but you know, you do you. So, so you see the couples interacting not just within their couples, but with other people who are there, which is kind of fun. And
kudos to those authors for running, was it 10 books on the same timeline? Because
and so that's like Krista Phillips did one, Jessica Patch did one. Those are the names that are leaping to mind right now. I did not write down all the authors, but those are the 2 that I read. Like those are probably the 2 where I was like, well, if they're both there, I want to read this because they're both very funny. So it's a fun series. It's still there, I believe, in Kindle Unlimited. So and it's fun. They all have sort of pink and purple and orange islandy looking covers. You can see them.
Yeah, the branding is very strong on those.
Yeah.
And they're rom-coms, aren't they? All rom-coms, all the books?
I don't think they're technically rom-coms, but they are all amusing. I don't like, this was older. Again, I want to say 2016, 2017, maybe 2015. I don't know. So I don't know that like rom-coms were for movies, but they weren't as big a thing for books. Like we didn't call them rom-coms usually. They just said they were funny. So I don't think they're branded as rom-coms, but they are funny.
Because Krista can't not be funny.
Because Krista can't not be
funny.
And I think, again, when Jessica's not writing suspense, she can't not be funny either. Or
definitely amusing.
Yeah. All right. We probably should stop because we're long, but that's okay because we're talking about multiple books at a time here. So, you know, too bad. We went long.
Everyone's TBR just got a lot longer.
Yes, exactly.
By about 100.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It was 100 by the time Tara was done with her first recommendation. So 200. Oops.
Sorry, people.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Tara. Remind everyone where they can find you and your books.
Absolutely. You can find me on my website, taragraceericson.com, or on Facebook and Instagram at Tara Ericson Author.
Excellent. All right. And if you have a multi-author series that we missed, or if you want to chime in on the how you need to read them debate, whether Narelle is wrong and the rest of us are right.
I'm happy to be wrong. I really don't care. I will do me.
Maybe the rest of us are wrong. It could be. Or maybe there's no wrong when it comes to reading, right? Just read.
Yeah.
So, but we'd love to hear from you in the comments on YouTube. We do have a Facebook page if you want to comment there. Nobody ever does, but in case you should decide you want to, you can. We'll be there too. So if you are watching on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And we will look forward to seeing you again next week. And in the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.